Alexa Wilson. I don't have to read that whole thing about not having an anchor location, because we actually do have an anchor location, but we still are available on Zoom for people who can't or don't want to come and just want to make use of the convenience of Zoom. Let me see, where's my text? So we have, let's do public comments first. Can we do public comments now first? We have, we like to get public comments on the record. I've had quite a few public comments off the record in the last 45 minutes. So thank you all for joining us for the meet and greet and the pizza. We have 15 minutes. Anyone who wants to talk can do so, up to 3 minutes. Now, is there anyone who wants to go on record and speak in public? Margaret.
I would just like to express my appreciation to the board. Things have the feeling of being more stable and secure. Like the ground underneath isn't constantly moving. So I just want to express my appreciation to you all.
Appreciate that, Margaret. Anyone else? Terry.
I was wondering what's going on with the parks. All of the dirt and everything's moved out of it. It doesn't belong to TUID. It actually belongs, I thought, to SIT, but I may be wrong on that. But why are they being cleared out? Hopefully for good, but you know, put grass and stuff and make it look like a park. But I don't know what's going on with that.
I think the portion she's talking about is where they bought all these lots and Dave following that over there. The one section was a park section.
The pocket.
Yeah,
they
pocket
the
there.
pocket parks.
And looks like the new owners are taking that part over as well.
I cannot address that. That is not a TUID matter. To the extent, I don't know. Maybe you can talk to Ray about that after the meeting and his non-TUID capacity. Does that work?
So that's probably not for public knowledge right now.
Okay, that's why I suggested to take it up with you after the meeting. It's not a TUID matter.
Can we follow up on that and see what's coming out of it? If it's sold to this new owner or if it's still park?
Yes, and I can facilitate that, but not in the context of TUID, because it's not a TUID matter. But yes, we can always talk. And then switch my hat. With my space. Anyone else? No? Okay, then we move on to next thing. We have two things on our agenda. We have general TUID business and a general management report. And we have a guest today, Jackie, and you have to help me pronounce your name.
Coombs.
Jackie Coombs. Jackie is with UAMPS, the Utah Associated Municipal Power Systems. They assist local districts with their power needs. They have connections with legislators, with regulators, with people that are in a position to guide us on grants. So we're very happy to have her here to introduce herself and her organization to us. Anything else I need to say by way of introduction? Jackie, thank you for trekking all the way down to Kickapoo from Salt Lake City. I probably passed you on the highway at some point.
I appreciate the opportunity to be
years. So I am Jackie Coombs. I'm the Managing Director of Customer Relations for UAMPS. I've actually been there for 34 years. So when I started, UAMPS only had one project, and we'll go over some of the history of UAMPS. So we're going to go over our organization just so you have the breadth of what we do. Some of the history that we worked through with TUID, what has been done, what's been successful, and what was not. Some generation options from our viewpoint on how to stabilize or improve the system, and then some grant opportunities. So we are a political subdivision of the state of Utah. We were formed in 1980. We're organized to develop, finance, and operate not only generation projects, but also transmission and energy services. We provide all of our energy services on a nonprofit basis, and we do that to 50 public power utilities that span 7 states. We are project-based. That means that we have 16 projects. I'm going to show you a slide that consists of all of our projects. But all of our members get to elect which projects they participate in pursuant to their community needs. And each one of our projects, so if TUID participates in a project, there's no cross defaults from project to project. So it's like we have 16 individual companies underneath the UAMPS umbrella. So we are governed by a board of directors. Currently we have 37 on our board out of the 50 members. They all represent public agencies, and they're elected by their peers. We have a project management committee, so every one of our projects also has a project management committee that directs all of the day-to-day operations of that project, and every member in that project has a vote. Each one of our members appoints a member representative by resolution, and that's who we do all of our correspondence through, and John has been named as TUID's member representative, so we do our correspondence through him. Our management, we do have a CEO and general manager that reports directly to the board and directs the staff and carries out the board's directives. So these are our projects. We have generation projects, which consist of coal, wind, solar, hydro. We are investigating the very first small modular reactor project in Idaho, and that's moving forward. We do have 2 transmission projects. And then we have service projects. We have our power pool that collect all of our inputs and schedule power to each one of our members. We have the resource project that investigates new resources. Government and Public Affairs is the project that Alexis was talking about. It does have, we do all kinds of lobby and work with both state and federal individuals. And then we have a member services where we share equipment, we pay dues, anything that we can get economies of scale. So when you look at UAMPS, that's what our strength is. We come together to bring economies of scale for the utilities to profit. As everyone knows in this room, TUID is limited in some of the resources that we provide due to you don't have transmission access, and so you can't import your power. So we have to work diligently with you to have that completed in-house. So just a little bit of history. I know TUID approached us in 2013. They had a violation on their diesel generators. UAMPS put together a coalition to help them mitigate that violation and to install your generation that you have currently. So what we did is we tapped all of our consultants. We had a ICPE, which provided engineering services. We did Wheeler Power. They're the ones who ultimately provided the equipment that's there. Van Cott was the attorney who assisted in navigating the air permit, getting it changed and amended. Chapman and Cutler is a bond attorney who helped us with our financial analysis. And then Zions Public Finance actually went to the Community Impact Board and did the application as well as the presentations before that board to get that grant that you have. So we were successful in getting the generation installed. And so after that, in 2016, TUI actually became a member of UAMPS. What they wanted to do is tap some of our in-house expertise and actually, other utilities. We do have small utilities. To give you a grasp of our membership, our largest member is City of St. George. They have 33,000 customers. They peak out, their peak load need is just over 200 megawatts versus TUID, I think 27 customers. And you peak about 250 kilowatts. So that's the difference. But all of the members that, we have several small, we have at least 6 that are under, they're only 500 kilowatts. So a lot of networking, a lot of working together, a lot of solution making, what they've done that's been successful. So that network is very strong throughout the membership, and it really is the knowledge from one to the other. We did attend meetings with TUID. One was held in Price, and I think even Alexa said she attended that meeting as her with her SITLA hat. And we were trying to do, a new energy development project. And the thought was that we put together a coalition and do a microgrid and include all the facilities here. So we would do Tickaboo, offshore, J&B, the national parks, and then the Bullfrog parcels. So we were trying to get everyone to come together and put together a larger and more robust energy platform. As you know, that has not been successful today. So, in 2008, we did attend with TUID. We went to Denver. We made a presentation to the national parks to provide electric service to the national parks. It was to put in a microgrid to clean up the energy supply to more of a solar battery, so that you wouldn't have to rely on diesel, which is your carbon fuel. We then TUID was not successful. We did not receive that authority to provide those services. In April of 2018, UAMPS attended meetings with TUID and testified with the Division of Public Utilities to obtain the Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. And in May of 18, we went to the Public Service Commission to expand the service territory. The service territory was successful, as well as was the Public Convenience and Necessity. TUID received both of those. In 2017 through the end of 2018, we worked with TUID as well as Wheeler Power, and we put together microgrid solutions for down here. And there were actually 4 revisions to that plan. Then TUID actually adopted a plan of finance. If a public utility wants to finance, they can only reach back 90 days unless they have a standing resolution to do so. So we did adopt that in case it went forward. We put out, we wanted to make sure, a lot of it was Wheeler Power providing the most economics of their microgrid proposals. So we actually put out a request for proposals to other entities to ensure that you were getting a competitive price on the microgrid. Ultimately, TUID notified us that they determined that it wasn't cost effective to move forward, and we stopped pursuing the microgrid option. Other things that we've done is we worked with TUID to do a simple rate study. We did share those spreadsheets with the board as well as with John. They do have the access to those that work product. We also started preliminary discussions with TUID and Garcane on tapping some of the grants. There are options to bring transmission in. It's an expensive proposition, but you definitely will have to have support with other utilities to do that venture. So, a lot of changes happened in and 18 until current. So when the new board came in, they weren't familiar with UAMPS or our platform. So they actually, 2 of the members came down and with Ray, and we met with them, went over our platform, similar to what we just went over on some of the history that we've done. Ultimately, they decided we were participants in our pool project, but the pool delivers energy, which Alexa pointed out. We can't take services from that. Why are we participating in it? So we switched the project that you participate into our member services project, which reduces the fees to TUID. The other thing is we learned that the generation was struggling and it had some operational issues. We do have great contacts with Wheeler Power. We reached out to that management team. They have since been down to help troubleshoot the generation. They've been working very closely with John, and he continues to work and troubleshoot some of the issues that the generators are having. So and this is what UAMPS makes presentations all the time, and it's just our take in how to get to the next juncture. It's just a suggestion, but TUID has a current air permit, and it's permitted for the generation that you currently have. That is a sacred piece of document. Any changes to your generation will make you have to go back to the air quality board. The air quality board is much more stringent today. They're making a lot more air quality controls on them, which will increase the cost. So at all means, we want to be able to try and protect that air permit. Currently, right now, you have a 500 kilowatt generator. It's a Caterpillar. You have 2 300 Caterpillar C9s, and then you have the 120 kilowatt MQ power. So the MP power did fail, and everyone in the industry gives hats off to John to be able to find one. It was the exact same model that he replaced it with, which if you don't change the model, then it doesn't affect the air permit. So that was a huge success for TUID to be able to do that. The other 2 C9 gen sets really need to be rebuilt. They are over their operational hours and they could actually fail at any time. They are extremely over their hours. But the current models of C9 is not available to buy anymore. So you'd have to replace it with a different generator, which we just went over how important the air permit is. So if you replace it, you have to replace it with a smaller unit or a larger unit, and the air modeling is different. And so that will require a notice of intent to the Division of Air Quality's board, and then they would open it up. And most likely, because you run on diesel, you would have more stringent air quality equipment that would need to be installed. One thing I skipped is that the rebuild for each one of the units is just under $55,000. So it's not a small undertaking by any means. But if we replace them with new units, we'd have to go through the air permit process. Each one of those new units is $107,000, and that's just the units not installed or labor and travel. So the existing generators we look at are an excellent platform to continue providing service to TUID. Caterpillar engines have worked 30 to 40 years in the past. They do need to make sure that they are maintained on a scheduled basis. And then, so we would recommend moving forward with rebuild. It's hard to stand here and say rebuild when you have a deficit in your budget, But, for an ongoing, reliable power to the community, that really is your best avenue currently. We also recommend, I know there's a lot of changes, the microgrid proposal last time was to replace all of the generation. Because of the switching gear to make the solar panels and the generation work, we had to replace the current units. That they believe that they can work around that now. They believe that they can engineer the switch so they can use the existing equipment, which will affect your air permit, put in a solar grid and complement each other. So if we add solar and battery, you would use those mainly for your power supply, and if either one of those, so if you went on multiple days without sun, it would switch to the diesel. So a lot of savings in your diesel fuel, but we would recommend that we work with Wheeler Power and have some of those numbers refreshed, and at least we can do a rate analysis on how it hits the customers here at TUID. One thing, if you had the budget, Wheeler does have a microgrid exactly like I'm discussing. It is in Tucson. The UAMPS board has toured that. It does work. You can see it actually physically, how it's configured and how it could maybe benefit the community.
Okay, so that again, that there is
The
a
microgrid,
microgrid operational in Tucson,
it's
similar to.
It would be, that's one reason why we selected, it's at the Tucson Proving Ground. It's the Tucson Proving Ground microgrid. There's actually a video online that you can go to, and it goes through the operations of the microgrid. But Wheeler Power is the one who did that, and the Wheeler Power is one that we were working on to provide the quotes for you. They're also the ones that have installed your current generation.
So when you say microgrid, is that just, do you mean microgrid including Kickapoo, offshore, and possibly further south, or are you just talking about Kickapoo?
The more collaboration that you can do, the more customers you have, the better off it would be. Collaboration is important when you're small, as Kickapoo is. That was in the past has not been successful, but you have a different team, and if you could come to a consensus on doing that and all come together, it would be very beneficial to put a larger microgrid to benefit the entire area.
And a microgrid is stuff that is connected with a line.
No, a microgrid actually, so microgrid would provide your power through solar. They oversize the solar, so you charge batteries. When the sun goes down, you recharge, you take energy from the batteries. Then when that is depleted, your generators automatically fire and provide the power. So it's seamless, but you have much fewer hours on your generation, so because you're relying on your solar and your battery.
Why don't you just go to a transfer switch to an inverter and skip batteries? I'm just telling you, batteries are
yeah, well, they're expensive, but that would be an option we could look at. Is it more feasible? Because you do have the cost of the battery, you have the waste of the battery, you have the replacement of the battery, so you have all of that. But you can't do the microgrid proposals that we did before did not have a battery component. But the new microgrids are going to some type of a battery component.
That's the weakness in the entire system, is freaking battery. I've been dealing with for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, batteries are a nightmare.
Yeah.
They're having an inverter switch and have generators going at night.
Yeah. So that's what the microgrid would do. And the larger the system, so it's the same thing right now. Alexa, if you had more customers, you could run your current generation more effectively, and get those rates would help pay some of that cost. So the more customers, the lower the incremental cost. So a lot of collaboration. It's not an easy thing. I'm not saying, but coming together as a community would be the best advantage.
So assuming that the community all came together, including national parks, what would your forecasted acreage footprint be, you think, for this area now that you've seen it? For that, to put in the solars like that, would that take how many acres?
I don't, but I can give you an answer. I'm sorry. It's not my expertise. Sorry.
Does that need to be kind of tethered to Alexa's question? Would it be centrally based and then would be connected via lines underground overhead? What would that look like to connect all these?
That would be a great thing. I know we're going to go over the grants next, and I'm not the expert in that, but we could get a team that could answer the technical questions on how it works and answer the footprint and answer how far away the panels can be from the generation, whether the line connects it or underground, above ground. That would be a great technical question. And I apologize. I don't know.
No, that's fine.
Jackie, can I ask?
Sure.
So just to make a clear view on the opportunity cost, because the $55,000 per engine quote, can John take a couple of minutes and just add on what our real costs are going to be to that? Because I think with what Wheeler brought us, it was more than that. It was pushing 80,000 per. Was it not, John?
It just depends on what would happen. Looking at the generator end, they call it sandblasting, which is actually windings on the generators. If they show sandblasting, then they got to be what's called baked and dipped,
Right.
which adds about another 12,000 plus freight because that's very heavy. So yeah, you don't know that until you get in there and look at them and inspect them when you're doing the rebuild on the engine. So when you do a rebuild, you're looking at two things: the engine itself, which drives the alternator, which we call the generator, does the same thing. Then you look at the generator itself, which has seal bearings. They have to be replaced too. They can fail like the engine, unfortunately, and you don't have any indication. And you look at the windings. Again, they have, you guys have seen motors, they have a varnish on them, and they look at that and see if they've been sandblasted and make that determination too. So yeah, you always, if you look at that, if we're quoted 54,000, then we have to, from a budgetary standpoint, we're going to do it plus 20% and look at the worst case scenario, which in this case would be both generators need to be baked and dipped, which would add another 24,000 to it. So you just you hope that it's not, but then you prepare for that just in case from a cost standpoint.
Well, they're double over their runtime too, so
yeah.
that could add to additional costs once it's stored out.
Yeah, and we're in an extreme environment. I mean, we're the test bed for heat and dust, which is considered extreme duty, too. And we do keep up with that from a maintenance standpoint, follow that severe duty routine maintenance, but nonetheless, it still affects their life cycle too.
Okay, thank you.
So Jackie, maybe another different line of thinking, we're always thinking of going to the south and including park service and everything, which is fantastic because there is a lot of people down there. What about including Hanksville in on this?
So
there's a lot of people there.
Hanksville has transmission access, so they can receive a different power than you can. So we can't get power from here to Hanksville. You have to have a power line. That's part of the problem here in Tigboo is you can't buy any power and bring it in. So, and the same thing, you couldn't use Hanksville because you couldn't get it outported to Hanksville. So it's really the transmission line.
We have their own transmission from them.
No, it's not.
Any other?
Got a couple questions. One, like she said, she brought it in Hanksville and they have their own transmission company. What would be cheaper, this or run our line from Hanksville down?
This option would be much less expensive.
I've heard a quote of $19 million, 90. $19 million.
It's $1 million a mile.
Got another question, another statement. When Mr. Shortreed was trying to work with you guys and get all this thing set up, the primary owner of Northlake turned around and stated that no power line would be run through his property at any time. So here we run into a problem. If North Lake wants power, how do we run a power line to them? We can't run one down.
Well,
Mr. Curtis has said that.
I'm not, I don't understand your territory enough, but are they currently a customer? Or they would be outside of your territory? I don't know that answer.
Currently, the only areas that are being served with UAD are the private subdivision
Right,
blocks that
yeah.
kind of go north,
So-
south, down the middle, and the commercial area where we are now.
So right now, you wouldn't have, you don't have the responsibility to serve them, but you'd have to come up with a group of coalition to be able to do that. And that would have to be everyone coming to the table and wanting to do the best thing for the county, and you'd have to work through those issues.
Yeah, well, that was the question there.
Yeah.
If we can't run a power line to them, how are they gonna get power?
Right. Well, but then if you can't come to a consensus or, within the broader the TUID, then you work with TUID, you size it to TUID, and then we look at the economics to see if that it will be a better option than straight diesel, or you add solar and a converter in diesel. At diesel today, the solar microgrid will look sweet. When we did it, it was less than $2. So there's a lot of different parameters. You can use the average over the life of the facilities to see if you can get the payback. So there's a lot of different things. But if you can't do that broader footprint, you just need to focus on what's best for TUID.
Let me just speak on behalf of, the issue that was just brought up. On behalf of NLP, we're in complete support of to optimize efficiencies, to do whatever's necessary to get, utilities where they need to be here. So there's a lot of baggage, a lot of history, and a lot of finger pointing, but moving forward, we're completely committed to make the best solution for the community as a whole.
Yeah, and I think you feel that you have a different team here that really does want to do the best they can for the community, and it will take that partnership to be able to do it.
Do you guys calculate how many solar panels you need to charge this stuff? Because it's running purely off solar panels during the day.
So I know it's in the proposal, but the proposals are old. The panels are different. They track different. The proposal would have to be redone. We'd have to calculate today's fuel, the different types of solar panels that we have today. They're much more efficient. And then make sure that we can engineer the switch gear to keep the existing fleet.
Because I think there's like 360 panels up there, up the hill, plus these down there. And it's kind of like, they sure haven't got any use.
Right. Well, if you bring in some engineering, maybe we can tap some of that unused solar. So, it's just, looking at different options to move forward. But currently right now, your backup and your heartbeat is your current generation, and so we need to get that stabilized and operating and healthy. And then we need to look at other options that maybe optimize and reduce costs.
I've got a comment just regarding the size questions for familiar with in our utility in Colorado. And it's a 1 megawatt facility, which is way more than we need here. And it's setting on 40 acres fence. So that'll give you kind of an idea. It's a 1 megawatt. So
Thank you.
we probably need half that, maybe 20, 30 acres max. I'm thinking.
Don't take me wrong, I'm for this, I just thought you needed to know that where we were denied crossing. At that time, it was settler property, now they own the property. And where we have a problem running power cables, I thought they needed to add that into your system.
Well, you can see through the history. It hasn't been an easy venture. We tried a lot of things that haven't been successful, but just have to try it again and see if it works better. Ownerships change, relationships change, and see if we can come to a consensus to to have a better solution.
So if we were talking, say, 20 acres, since the land all around here is owned or leased or something, I mean, there's BLM, there's Sitla, there's North Lake Power, there's private. Where would we contemplate putting 20 acres? And would Sitla be willing to have it on their land?
I think that,
There have been discussions with Sigla for decades about finding a spot for solar panels. The last time we talked with Chip was probably in 2017, and he said, I want 40 acres, and I said,
Good luck.
no, I said, bring us a plan and some, with a financing plan, and then we'll discuss it with our lessee, and we'll most likely find you a good spot for the panels, if it's a plan that works.
Yeah.
But I think looking for the 40 acres right now might be putting the cart before the horse.
Right.
I think we should start at the beginning without any preconceived ideas and digging out old grudges and just start from the beginning and build from there.
oh, definitely, we need to just start all over, and, and the technology and the systems have improved a lot. I mean, so the proposal will look different, economics are different, so we just need to run that analysis and refresh it. And then if it actually works on paper, then you go and look at your equipment providers, your land, your finance, so all of that comes together on this.
Yeah, if, Mr. Shortreach's records aren't all deleted, he'd already made arrangements with BLM on the north side of the fence up by the generators, go ahead and put a full solar filled in right there. So BLM was agreeing to go ahead and let us do it, if that's what it takes to put a solar field in.
And
So you
I
won't
think
have
we
to
should
search
just
for
start
property.
at the beginning of the process,
We
at
need
the
to
beginning
rebuild
of
the
the
2C9s.
process.
We have to rebuild the 2C9s no matter what and take it from there.
And then when we have a
We know
plan
how to
that,
do that.
that might work, we'll look for a spot, and putting it in BLM land is definitely an option.
I think what's really gonna be beneficial for this whole process is just everybody coming together and working together. and
BLM
looking-
regional manager,
and looking
region
for-
manager agreed to it.
I will definitely keep that in mind as an option.
Is it right?
I don't think a regional manager can make that decision. I think it has to go to the state level.
His records aren't deleted.
So why don't we let Jackie finish her presentation, and when we do have a plan together based on the expertise of her organization, then we'll bring it back to this meeting and then we can discuss it.
So I was asked to go over the history, what, we see as optimal moving forward. But, we definitely will be working with the board and getting our direction from them. You know who they are, and you can comment through them, but, really the direction would be there, then they will bring back, their decisions and bring it back and make recommendations and actions on that. So, we're just trying to be the support and some of the expertise behind that. How we see to get TUID to continue with electric services, Amy is correct. The next step, and you don't have the money, and you can see the number. So it's 55,000 plus to rebuild two. That's just each is the cost, and you need two rebuilds.
And we don't have the money right now.
Yeah, and hats off to John, because he found a replacement for the one that you guys can switch to for winter. So, I mean, you have a team that is doing everything they possibly can to stabilize the system and move it forward in a great area. I can't say, I went on a tour of the facilities, and I have our old general manager had a house in Teasdale, so he was always the one that came down. First, I haven't been down here. It was a fabulous form.
Can I ask one more question? With this microgrid concept, is there space in there or how would it work for individual solar panels?
So I think all of that just comes together with an analysis. I mean, you know, a lot of things they could, the board could listen to concepts from an engineer. They can take, you know, different ideas to see if it works. But, you know, if you put individual solar panels on, it takes away from the kilowatts that you need in the big solar. And the solar, that how to make it economic is to have all of them, you know, cohesive. We want other people to come in. You all need to be in and, you know, buying on it. So grants. Now, Mike Squires is supposed to be here. UAMPS actually has a $1.4 billion grant with the Department of Energy. They called an emergency meeting this afternoon, so he's in DC. So I am going to go through his slides. I'm by no means the expert, but he has done a lot of investigation on the different types of grants that are possible. You will see when we go through the list, TUID fits a lot of those categories, but our recommendation to the board was let's do the next sidebar with, you know, the entire board. Mike can step them through how he feels that we could best proceed. But I'm going to go over it just so you can see some of the grant opportunities. We could get a grant, it would help on the costs, you know, for not only the rebuild, but some of the microgrid stuff. So the first one is the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. This is, he looked at state grants. Would potentially be a good fit. You know, it's, you know, in updating your electric system, you know, we're doing a lot of, we have a coalition with our other members. They're going to put in a joint grant to beef up transmission lines. However, it is a cost match of only 33%. So you can see, you know, maybe not the best option. 33% is something, but it's not, you know, maybe where we need to be when you are deficit a budget. The next one is Power and Affordable Clean Energy PACE. This is part of the Inflation Act. It's actually the largest pot of money that's been allocated since Roosevelt. They actually forgive up to 60% of the repayment. But, you know, the loans are for renewable energy projects that use wind, solar, hydropower, geothermal, and biomass. So, you know, could be a good fit if we wanted to go microgrid avenue. Then we have Solar for All. This is a great program. They're going to do $7 billion for all competitive. It has no cost share, so it's actually 100% funded. This would probably be the top priority, but it is for solar. Again, if we're talking about a microgrid, refresh the numbers, supply those with, you know, with your economics here, with your number of customers, you know, that's a great story to put in the grants that are being offered right now. Because they're, you know, investment for enabling millions of low-income households to do affordable, resilient, and clean power. So I know he has the Utah Clean Energy. They are actually putting in their own grants so that they can help some of the communities as well. So we may be able to tap some, you know, they're successful in getting that grant as well. The other one is energy improvement in rural or remote areas. I don't know that there's very many places more remote than this one. So this one also would fit into TUID. Its ability to do energy systems for communities less than 10,000. And it does experiencing resilient energy solutions. An energy solution would be microgrid or help with the distribution system. You know, disappropriately high electric costs, you know, that would definitely fit into TUID too with your electric costs where they currently are, and, you know, for rural and remote communities. So this would, you know, fit almost every box you fit into this box. So, I mean, a lot of opportunities. We just need to start writing grants.
Is there a match on that one?
I'm sorry, I don't know. Yeah, sorry. But, you know, the most important thing, here's another thing, another coalition. It will be the best thing that we can do is work with the county, and I know that they're diligently working with the county to, I mean, they diligently worked on it with the county to try and bring transmission lines access in here, you know, work with our federal partners, you know, get the state to earmark monies, you know, that this would be a great story for, you know, the state appropriations. You know, they keep saying they want all of the economic development to stay in Utah on this side of the lake and not on the Page side. So, you know, that would be another story that we could tell. I mean, so there's a lot of good dialogue that we could put into grants. But, you know, it is building additional coalitions with federal, state, and county to come together to find solutions that work for this area, but benefit TUID, benefit the community, the county, as well as the state. So a lot of synergies, and Mike is the best one. He is our government and public affairs manager. He has a lot of energy. He's a lot younger than me, and he runs circles around. So he's a great one, and we will definitely be following up with the board as soon as possible to see if we can come to a solution. In the meantime, they can give us direction on how they want to move forward, what monies they want to be able to put in and ask for a grant, and what works best for the community. That really is my presentation. I'm happy to answer additional questions, but you know, UAMPS is here to support TUID. I did answer a couple of questions already that came up. We do have a lot of networking with other utilities similar to TUID that, you know, if we don't know it, we can call them and tap their expertise and help in a lot of different ways, even up to equipment. If, you know, John can't buy equipment, maybe somebody else has it in their storage, you can send out inquiries to see if we can obtain equipment needed. So a lot of synergies, and I think it's a huge win-win for both TUID and UAMPS for you to be a member.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, and we'll to follow up with you and get together with you and Mike sometime in Salt Lake City. Yes. Thank you very much. The only point left on the agenda is some general manager report.
Okay, I'll get thinking of that.
Ron,
Yeah.
do a little overview of the terms of conference.
Certainly. The exciting things are the repetitive things, and Jackie touched on to a large degree, which is the generators that dominates our day here in our week, and typically a year. And what I mean by that too is the cost. You know, Jackie mentioned the rebills, and you know, it's just part of. They're due at 20,000 hours is the benchmark, and to let you guys know, they're pushing 23,000 hours now. So what happens, you know, they can be pushed further. People have done it, but there's a risk. And again, we're in the hot and the dry, so there's a risk that we take there too. And if one of them fails, like Jackie mentioned, not only you can't find a replacement because they're tier 3, which means they don't use DEF. And having run generators, when you start incorporating DEF, number one, you have the expense of DEF fluid, and then there's probably a multitude of problems that come with DEF, you know, the after treatment system that go with it. So tier 3s are good to have. That's why we want to keep those, you know, up there for now. So we need to work on those rebuilds and get those going. Part of what we've done to mitigate that is we have run the C15 some this summer. You know, it's a big generator. It only had 2,000 hours on it. And mathematically, you know, looking at things logically, what we would see when you get up to about, you know, we get demands up around, you know, 170 kilowatts, 180, especially this summer, everybody's running ACs. Well, then the two C9s start to share a load. And if you look at it from the machines, they burn about 11 gallons per hour. So when you got two of them running together, both trying to share that load, that's a lot of fuel as it is on any given day. But then the C15 running that same load on its own would burn around 12, sometimes 13 gallons per hour. So mathematically made more sense to run the C15 because it's newer and has low hours. and it handles that load. So that's one of the ways we're mitigating, trying to stretch out the life of the C9s too. Jackie also mentioned the MQ. So the decision there, in case nobody's aware, the other one died. It was actually going to cost more to rebuild the other one than what we found a lower our newer one for to replace it with. It was estimated around $60,000 to rebuild the other one, and then part of that $5,000 that was just tearing it down before they even knew what was wrong. And then the record showed that that particular model, it's hard to get parts from Japan when it does break down. So we went with one, save all that time and money, and found one just made more sense, to get one lower hours and not spend 5,000 more and possibly more there too. So that'll help on fuel savings for the winter. That's one thing that was missing. But as Jackie talked about, anytime you guys have any questions or want any documents, like Jackie mentioned, the document UAMPS had, I'll be glad to share that with you guys. It's all public knowledge. You guys all have a right to have access to that. So, call, email, come by. More than happy to share information with you and answer any questions. The more you guys know and understand what's going on, that's part of working together too, is to be, 100% transparent in what we do. But other than the rebuild cost, which is a concern and a need, our other item is we talk about solar's fuel cost. Our budget this year was for $169,000 in fuel. Our average order per month is $30,000. So if you do the math on that, 169 is not going to get you very far. It's going to get us power for half the year, not the full year. So we're pushing between 200 and 230,000 for the year in fuel. So budget wise, obviously that's a lot more money. We can't turn them down. And of course, everybody knows what's happening in the Mideast, and the fuel markets, the energy market gets a whiff of, maybe there could be something going. We all know the markets are going to react. So that's something I may speak with the board, that we look at trying to buy some more fuel now and beat the clock, but we have a financial crunch because we have a $26,000 bond due too, as well. So that's what we deal with, every day in making things work. So it's good that everybody has passion for solar. We can all only win in the end from somebody who sees these costs every day, and I'm working on the 2024 budget. And if I budget everything like it would need to be, budgets are always a compromise to a degree, but it's also a processing, really comprehending your cost. We're at about a $800,000 deficit of where we need to be to get everything, in ship shape and keep it up to date too. So that's what we have to work around. And part of that too, we've delayed some of like one of the examples of the expense on the generators too. There's one of the breakers failed up there that's automatic. So normally they all three will communicate. Well, when one breaker fails, it will no longer automatically open and close. So that machine's out of the loop. That breaker, which is about the size of my hand, is about $5,000. And it was about 6 months for it to come in. You can't debate if you're going to get it, you have to get it, but it's not due in until the end of December. The good news is, budgetary wise, we'll get billed for it next year. But so it's, it's an expensive proposition. And it's not just that, the engines and the generator age. Our other big expense has been the communications. It's been, the circuit boards that go out that are $3,000 and $4,000 because they get hot, and they don't like vibration either, which that's what happens too. So there's a lot. It's like the human body. It's not just your heart and your lungs. It's arteries and eyeballs and all that for a generator, to make an analogy. So it does get expensive with them there too. But we're working on that. I'm very comfortable with it and what we do daily, and the financial parts of it too. But anytime you guys have questions, again, reach out. Everything there is to be shared, and it's public, property and knowledge too. So keep that in mind. But we're just pushing ahead and keeping things clean and on schedule, and planning ahead too in the process. So Update wise, that is all for me.
I have a question.
Sure.
Did we ever get reimbursement from the company that did not hand in our water rights information in sufficient time?
That's a good question. And Margaret, they're working on it. Alexa and I followed up with them. And the short answer is no, not yet. But the longer answer is it's in process. And, they want to do right by us. And yeah, as you talk about money, it's around $25,000, right at it, give or take a dollar or two. And to me, that's a load of fuel as we talk about our expense. So I do hope that works out. It's the morally right thing to do, is to get us that money back. So we'll certainly keep you guys up to date on that, but we do not have money in hand, from that yet.
Thank you.
Good, you're welcome. And board wise, you guys have seen the financials. We'll mention that. So I do have one more thing. You saw that they're not bad, other than fuel and repair and maintenance on the generators. Those are through Q3, which is of course the end of September. Budgetary wise, we look pretty good. The income's good. As I mentioned to you guys, the water income is off. Everything else, income is a little bit easier to predict and budget than expenses, especially here from our operations. So I don't know why the water income is off by about 7,000. I'm not sure. Water is one of those things like electricity that, you bill overages from one year into the next year. So that can throw off budgets. I'm not sure if it's a budgetary, but it is off. Other than that, a few expenses that, there's some landfill revenue that's missing that we do have. That's easy. That's typical when you import financials through QuickBooks like this. And a few of the expense categories, I think it's an import issue. Like I mentioned the computer and internet. I think QuickBooks is recording some of the Beehive bills twice that were paid offline, and QuickBooks thinks they were, paid again, and they weren't. So not much concern there. We're just, you guys see the main drivers are the fuel costs that are over, and then the repair and maintenance on the generators themselves there. Other than that, everything pretty much matches up. That is a redacted version of the financials. I'm a bigger fan of them. They're just much easier to read by taking out the redundancy and the allocations. As I mentioned to you guys. We're due then. Yeah, my role is to get you guys that budget before November, and then bring it up and let the public look at it too. And again, my goal is still, speaking with the auditor, is to reduce that budget down. And I would like anybody from the public to be able to walk in here and read it and say, yeah, I get this, and give us a tool to use. So in the discussions with them, we can shorten that up. And it's really, all it is shortening the budget. You guys have heard me say this, is not having internet allocated 5 different areas. I just want to know that I'm going to pay, $3,462.63 in internet one time. And in one category, it's in my head now. If it's in 10 different places, I can't combine that as easily and comprehend it. So, I like to keep a budget in my head and on paper too, and that will allow us to do that going forward.
Stay tuned for the detailed budget discussion next month.
Yeah, it's the budget. I've really got it probably 80% complete because of state. And again, it's a good exercise. They want to see 2023's budget, what you've expended to date versus what you budgeted, which is good. It makes you look at it. It wants to see the previous year, which obviously would have been 2022, and then you look at 2024. So it makes your brain engage and also analyze your cost, while you're doing that too. So
Discuss the budget for 2023 and 21.
Correct. Yeah, one thing the state audit requires is that legally you can't spend more money than you have budgeted. Even if you have more money, you can't spend it. We have, can't, again, we got to have fuel for the generators, but the happy medium to that is you just have to get amendments in, and they will be public too. We show those amendments, which are mainly going to be very easy repair and maintenance, and fuel are the two budget busters, so to speak. So yeah, we'll get those amendments into those guys. So
Thank you.
good deal.
I think that's the end of our agenda. So thank you all for coming. I'll echo what John said. Anything, anytime anybody has anything to say to me, please do so. I will respond. And I will take your comments seriously and share them with other board members so we can address your issues. We need a motion to adjourn. Okay, a second. Everybody ready to adjourn? Say aye. Aye.